Hey folks, in this video we're going to be discussing if statements in Google Sheets. If statements are a conditional function which enables you to establish actions based upon true and false outcomes. This is also called Boolean. Boolean means that something is either true or it is false. We're going to be demonstrating how to use if. We're going to break down how if works. We're then going to demonstrate how to nest if statements within one another to have multi-conditionals. And then we're going to address the difference between inclusive statements and exclusive statements. The data set that we're going to be working with is the one that we've been using for a few videos now, which has a list of people associated with countries and some associated values. In previous videos, we've touched on using VLOOKUPs and array formulas in order to look up values from a table. In this case, we have a hidden tab in here called lookups, where our VLOOKUP is associating a country name with an abbreviation as well as a country code. What we're going to do today is we're going to use an if statement in order to recreate that outcome in column J. So over here, I'm going to demonstrate how if works. Um, so if is rather straightforward in that it has three arguments. The first argument defines your logic. So in our documentation here, it says if A2 equals foo, A2 is foo. If not, A2 is not foo. So basically this is saying if this is true, do this. If this is not true, do this. So for our purposes, we are going to say if A2 equals United States, give me USA. If not, give me not USA. So this is what that looks like. So we're going to reference A2, and we're going to use the equal sign, and we're going to say United States. And then we're going to be defining what our true statement is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in USA. You can see our prompt is already showing that this is a true statement. I'm going to add in a comma. We're moving into our final argument. This is what's going to happen if it's false. And we're going to say, this is not the USA. And I'm going to hit enter. And now you can see we're returning USA. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drag it down. And we are going to get all of our values that are United States are appearing as USA. And then you can see everything that is not the United States is getting this is not the United States. So what's happening in here is your if statement is identifying two potential outcomes, right? So if something is true, then an action will occur. If it is not true, then another action will occur. So in our example in here, we only defined the United States, and thus anytime that it says the United States, we get USA. If it is anything but the United States, you will get this is not the USA in here. But what you could also do is you could nest your if statement within another if, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clean this up just a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say if A2 equals the United States, give me the USA. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to nest, meaning I'm going to use another if statement in there. And I'm going to say if A2 equals Canada, and give me CAN. Otherwise, I have no value. Well, that's a little rough. I have no abbreviation. Cool. So we'll hit enter. And now you'll see that USA is still appearing here. And when we drag it down our row, you'll now see that we have a new outcome where USA is appearing and Canada is appearing. And then for the United Kingdom, we have I have no abbreviation. The reason for this is because we don't have a statement that defines what the United Kingdom is, right? So United States has a true statement, Canada has a true statement, United Kingdom does not have a true statement, and thus it is false because A9 is not United States, it is not Canada. Therefore, the false statement gets triggered, which is the I have no abbreviation. So the way that this works when you're nesting is you're using your false statement to open up another tree. So I think about these as like decision trees where they have branches, right? So if your statement is true, you'll get a return, such as if it says United States, give me USA. If it says Canada, give me can, right? And the way that that's working is instead of you defining your false statement, meaning if it's the United States, do this. If it is not the United States, say something else. What we decided to do was we used another if statement in our false statement. And this enabled us to set up another Boolean situation where we then have a true that is doing something else and a false that is doing another thing. Now, the cool thing about these statements is that you can have them go on in perpetuity. So if you really want to, you could continue to nest your ifs in this capacity where you can continue to define things for as long as you want to, right? And you can put your ifs over and over and over and over into perpetuity, just like this. Now, the challenge that you're going to run into if you do something like this is that it will become very difficult to read, and maintaining the logic will become laborious and challenging, right? You can already see in here, it's getting to be quite a bit, right? So then if we entered in A2 equals United Kingdom, give me UK, oops, sorry. And then otherwise, we are saying country does not exist, right? So now when we drag this down, we get the UK in there, right? And that's because we have defined within our if statement, if United States, give me USA, if Canada, give me can, if United Kingdom, give me UK, if it doesn't appear, if it's not one of these three, country does not exist, right? So in here, I'm going to write Mexico, and I'm going to drag a formula down, and you're going to see country does not exist because we don't have a value for Mexico in there. The more efficient way of accomplishing something like this is to use a lookup value, right? Is to have a table like we do in here where instead of having your if statement, you would write in a country, update your data value, and then have, whatever your data is, right? And then we go back in here and you can see this is now dynamically responded, right? And we're getting the values that we just entered in there, but you can see our if statement does not update. This is merely meant as an example so that you can tangibly see how if works. There are more practical applications where you will want to use an if statement. But if you get into a point like this where you have multiple values that you need to define, I would encourage you to use lookup tables. But ifs are available if you have a broader range of things, right? Where, like, let's say that you wanted to define, so when I was a kid, I was a hockey fan, and they would have the professional league, the National Hockey League, would have an all-star game where North America would compete against all the other countries in the world. So it would be North America versus the world. So what you could do in here is you could say if A equals United States, give me North America. You could also do if A2 equals Canada, give me North America. Otherwise, give me the world. Right? And that would be an efficient way of using this particular data set that we're working with in here. Because what'll happen is you'll get a more binary result, right? So you'll have North America appear, or it's the world, right? So you're not going to have this updating data set where, you know, you're going to have new countries that are added to North America. It's going to be really straightforward where you can define North America. That's one use case. Again, I would probably defer to lookups in order to do that. Additionally, what you can do in here is instead of having this verbose statement of like two ifs nested like that, what you could also do is use an or statement. And what this allows you to do is it gives you a logical expression such as if A2 equals United States, and then it allows you to use a comma separated value to define multiple things. So I'm saying if A2 equals United States, or, and then I separate it by a comma, and then I say A2 equals Canada, then give me North America, otherwise give me the world. So what's happening in here is this or statement is being nested within if, so that I can define two things at once that represent one thing, right? So instead of writing if A2 equals United States, if A2 equals Canada, give me North America, then give me the world, we are now doing it in one statement, which then results in everything else responding accordingly to it. So nesting ifs is something that you will do, and there will be legitimate use cases for it. But if you start getting to this point where you have a very robust list of if statements, I would encourage you to consider constructing a lookups table and leveraging either an index match or a VLOOKUP or an XLOOKUP or whatever lookup is your preferred method of joining two pieces of data together. Cool, so the last thing that I want to talk through today is the difference between inclusion and exclusion, right? So in our example, we said if country is USA or if country is Canada, do something, right? You can also do if country is not USA, if country is not Canada. And that is the difference between including something and excluding something. There are some times where it's more efficient to exclude values rather than to individually identify every value that is something. Sometimes it's just easier to say that it is not something. So what that looks like is, let's go back to our example in here, and let's do our exclusion, right? So basically, all of our if statements to this point have been inclusions because we've been using the equal sign in order to say if a value is something. But you also have the ability to say if a value is not something, right? So what we're going to do in here is we're going to use an if statement in order to show you what the exclusion symbol looks like and what the result ends up becoming. So what we're going to do is we're going to say if A2 is not, that's what these, the less than greater than sign, I will sometimes refer to this as a diamond. What this symbol means is does not. So we're going to say if this value is not United Kingdom, then give me North America. Otherwise, give me the world. Right? And now what you can see is we effectively got the exact same result as we did. We not effectively. We did get the exact same result as this verbose statement that we made here, right? We said if or A2 equals United States, Canada, it's North America, otherwise it's the world. But from the purposes of our data set, we had only one value in here that was not part of our quote unquote the world group. So the more efficient way of approaching this was to say if the value is not the United Kingdom, then it's North America, right? Because we had two countries in here, United States and Canada, that are part of North America, and then the United Kingdom is considered the world. It is much more efficient to say if A2 is not the United Kingdom, then it is North America. Otherwise, it's the world. So to recap in here, if statements are a Boolean function, which means that you will return a true statement or a false statement. If allows you to define what you want to have happen if the value is true, as well as what to happen if the value is false, right? And we have the ability to leverage that binary true false in order to nest additional functions or additional if functions within our if statement in order to add more depth to our conditional statement. We also explored the difference between inclusion, which means something is something, as well as exclusion, which is if something is not something, right? And we also addressed that there are going to be times where it is far more efficient to leverage lookup values rather than an elongated list of multiple if statements that granularly define things. If you're interested in more resources about different types of lookups like index match, VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, I have additional resources for that on my channel. I hope you found this video to be helpful. I'm always interested in feedback and suggestions because there is no right or wrong way to do any of this type of stuff. It really just comes down to what works for you. So please reach out in the comments section if you have any suggestions or comments or anything like that. And I wish you the best of luck on your data journey.